On one of the great moors over in Jutland, where trees won't grow because the soil is so sandy and the wind so strong, there once lived a man and his wife who had a little house and some sheep, and two sons who helped them to herd them. The elder of the two was called Rasmus, and the younger Niels. Rasmus was quite content to look after sheep, as his father had done before him, but Niels had a fancy to be a hunter, and was not happy till he got hold of a gun and learned to shoot. It was only an old muzzle-loading flintlock after all, but Niels thought it a great prize and went about shooting at everything he could see. So much did he practice that in the long run he became a wonderful shot and was heard of even where he had never been seen. Some people said there was very little in him beyond this, but that was an idea they found reason to change in the course of time. The parents of Rasmus and Niels were good Catholics, and when they were getting old, the mother took it into her head that she would like to go to Rome and see the Pope. The others didn't see much use in this, but she had her way in the end. They sold all the sheep, shut up the house, and set out for Rome on foot. Niels took his gun with him. "What do you want with that?" said Rasmus. "We have plenty to carry without it." But Niels could not be happy without his gun, and took it all the same. It was in the hottest part of the summer that they began their journey, so hot that they could not travel at all in the middle of the day, and they were afraid to do it by night lest they might lose their way or fall into the hands of robbers. One day, a little before sunset, they came to an inn which lay at the edge of a forest. "We had better stay here for the night," said Rasmus. "What an idea," said Niels, who was growing impatient at the slow progress they were making. "We can't travel by day for the heat, and we remain where we are all night. It will be long enough before we get to Rome if we go on at this rate." Rasmus was unwilling to go on, but the two old people sided with Niels, who said, "The nights aren't dark, and the moon will soon be up. We can ask at the inn here and find out which way we ought to take." So they held on for some time, but at last they came to a small opening in the forest, and here they found that the road split in two. There was no signpost to direct them, and the people in the inn had not told them which of the two roads to take. "What's to be done now?" said Rasmus. "I think we had better have stayed at the inn." "There's no harm done," said Niels. "The night is warm, and we can wait here till morning. One of us will keep watch till midnight and then waken the other." Rasmus chose to take the first watch, and the others lay down to sleep. It was very quiet in the forest, and Rasmus could hear the deer and foxes and other animals moving about among the rustling leaves. After the moon rose, he could see them occasionally, and when a big stag came quite close to him, he got hold of Niels' gun and shot it. Niels was awakened by the report. "What's that?" he said. "I've just shot a stag," said Rasmus, highly pleased with himself. "That's nothing," said Niels. "I've often shot a sparrow, which is a much more difficult thing to do." It was now close on midnight, so Niels began his watch, and Rasmus went to sleep. It began to get colder, and Niels began to walk about a little to keep himself warm. He soon found that they were not far from the edge of the forest, and when he climbed up one of the trees there, he could see out over the open country beyond. At a little distance he saw a fire, and beside it there sat three giants, busy with broth and beef. They were so huge that the spoons they used were as large as spades, and their forks as big as hay forks, and with these they lifted whole bucketfuls of broth and great joints of meat out of an enormous pot which was set on the ground between them. Niels was startled and rather scared at first, but he comforted himself with the thought that the giants were a good way off, and that if they came nearer, he could easily hide among the bushes. After watching them for a little, however, he began to get over his alarm, and finally slid down the tree again, resolved to get his gun and play some tricks with them. When he had climbed back to his former position, he took good aim and waited till one of the giants was just in the act of putting a large piece of meat into his mouth. Bang! Went Niels' gun, and the bullet struck the handle of the fork so hard that the point went into the giant's chin instead of his mouth. "None of your tricks," growled the giant to the one who sat next to him. "What do you mean by hitting my fork like that and making me prick myself?" "I never touched your fork," said the other. "Don't try to get up a quarrel with me." "Look at it then," said the first. "Do you suppose I stuck it into my own chin for fun?" The two got so angry over the matter that each offered to fight the other there and then. But the third giant acted as a peacemaker, and they again fell to their eating. While the quarrel was going on, Niels had loaded the gun again, and just as the second giant was about to put a nice tidbit into his mouth, bang went the gun again, and the fork flew into a dozen pieces. This giant was even more furious than the first had been, and words were just coming to blows when the third giant again interposed. "Don't be fools," he said to them. "What's the good of beginning to fight among ourselves when it is so necessary for the three of us to work together and get the upper hand over the king of this country? It will be a hard enough task as it is, but it will be altogether hopeless if we don't stick together. Sit down again, and let us finish our meal. I shall sit between you, and then neither of you can blame the other." Niels was too far away to hear their talk, but from their gestures he could guess what was happening, and thought it good fun. "Thrice is lucky," said he to himself. "I'll have another shot yet." This time it was the third giant's fork that caught the bullet and snapped in two. "Well," said he, "if I were as foolish as you two, I would also fly into a rage, but I begin to see what time of day it is, and I'm going off this minute to see who it is that's playing these tricks with us." So well had the giant made his observations that, though Niels climbed down the tree as fast as he could so as to hide among the bushes, he had just got to the ground when the enemy was upon him. "Stay where you are," said the giant, "or I'll put my foot on you, and there won't be much of you left after that."